Happy Dad's Day. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for coming in today. Now, I was going to do this originally in portrait mode. I had put something on my community page, and because of people saying how much they hated portrait mode, I decided to go ahead and do landscape mode. Now, there is no portrait mode, it is landscape mode only. And today we're just going to have discussions. If you want to come up, I want you to do me a favor, exclamation point email, get my email, send me an email. I'm not going to let everybody up. I want to have this to be a fun and good discussion. I want to avoid the would-be smart alecks.
But I'm here already.
Truth, fact. But again, if you want to come up and you want to talk and you want to be on panel, it is open. Just email me. I have my email open, and I will be kind of monitoring that. So I want to make sure that we have some good conversation. There's a lot of cool stuff happening in the world of being a father. And so again, just let me know if that's something that you want to see, and then I will go ahead and bring you up. All right. So right now I only see Rockzilla. Now I had an issue this morning. Eric, can I have you do me a favor? Can I have you look and see if I know I'm live? I can see myself live, but did you get an alert?
Well, let me look. I did not.
Okay. So I had notification this morning when I put this up, and I need to start doing this on Saturdays. Every time I try to do this on Sundays, it doesn't happen. That there was an issue with notification. It didn't tell me what the notification was, but I'm wondering if that means notifications weren't going to go out. Maybe they didn't have enough time to do it because it's only been like an hour. So I need to find out if there's any kind of requirement, like you need to have it in, 2 hours before or 4 hours before in order for that to occur. But is what it is. Yeah, Coach. We were on Tiger Stream last night, and a number of people were like, "Man, I don't know that I'll watch it in portrait mode." And it's like, you know what? I'll just run it landscape. Not a big deal. Oh, Rockzilla got a notification. Okay, cool. And so I'm like, oh, I just won't run both. I don't want to have to manage it today. I want to focus more on the conversation and not manage
And
multiple
it's your
chats and
day. You
stuff.
get to relax once in a while.
Yeah, but I agree with Coach. In order to really grow the channel, I did some things offline and coordinated with some stuff, and it ended up leading to a ton of subs in the wrong field. However, I think that if I really want to grow, I have to do some portrait only stuff.
Sure.
Because I have to appeal to a couple different audiences. A lot of people don't sit down in front of their TVs and watch landscape mode. So I'll make that happen. I've got to figure out, I'll probably do like 30-minute streams or 40-minute streams sometime during the week. Keep it easy, keep it small, keep it short. And choose a small topic, just kind of go through, do a couple things, have some fun, maybe do some question and answer type stuff. And
I just can't grasp the cell phone mode thing. It is just still too small for a media for me. Maybe it's just old eyes or something.
well, maybe, and a lot of times, so if you're doing a
Or
single
old people.
person, if you're doing multiple people, it's not very good. One reason is because if you're looking at the size of the screen, so for instance, let's look at your screen here, right? So we're talking about the screen only being about yay wide, right? And then if you have four people, so you have a small face here, small face here, small face here, small face, small face, and then you have text going over the top of it, it becomes distracting. And so
Yes.
if you only run half a screen and they don't have their chat turned on, then they're only viewing it in half a screen. So you have to have a good setup. You have to have a good structure. You have to have things to where the chat is only 2 or 3 lines, 4 lines high. You have to really be good at structuring that portrait mode in order for it to be beneficial for people. It is not conducive to panels. It's just not.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that there is a well, what am I generation gap in it too.
Could be.
The
Yeah, it
younger
could be.
people, they live on their phones, and everything. I mean, don't get me wrong, I spend a lot of time on my phone, but I do cut the cord most of the day. It's sitting out on a table or something like that.
Yeah,
Whereas
I
my
try to give
younger,
myself more time away from it.
yeah, my younger kids, uh, especially my youngest daughter, she lives on her everything is done through her phone. All her house stuff, everything is on her phone. And to me, that just creates issues. Not with technology. I'm very good with the technology, but it creates issues for identity theft and hacking and all this other stuff because you just got way too much information on that little teeny device.
Oh, yeah, and there are people honestly, there are people who would not be able to function if they didn't have, their cell phones. They just wouldn't be able to function. People don't know telephone numbers, people don't know, their bank accounts, people don't know access to things. I have a good friend of mine, he can't even remember what bank he banks through. He had to pull the phone up in order to remember the
Yep.
name of his
Well, look at
bank.
phone numbers. Nobody remember. I still remember all the phone numbers from when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
And but you ask my kids, hey, what's my phone number? If they don't have a phone, they can't dial my phone number. They don't know it.
No, well, my my oldest boy was like, "Why would I need your phone number if I didn't have my phone?" I'm like,
Well,
"Well,"
and that's true too. There's no pay phones out there
it's like,
anymore.
"Well, what happens if you lose your phone and you have to call me from somebody else's?" Oh.
That's the point I make. But
Like,
yeah,
just
it, it
just keep some numbers in your wallet and,
and like
emergency
Coach
numbers.
said, the portrait, or no, that wasn't Coach. Who was it? Somebody said the portrait mode can get you a lot of subscribers. I've seen people get 10,000 subscribers like overnight
Oh, yeah, that was
because it got
Coach.
pushed through portrait mode.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have, and he's right, if you have a good time slot and you have good information, then you can really grow it.
But how many of those subscribers are actually engaging in the conversation that you are saying and not just like passing through and say, "Oh, this is pretty cool. I'll subscribe," and then never watch you again.
That happens a lot. But again, here's the thing, and a lot of people need to understand how that works. So when you're talking about short form content, like shorts and stuff, they're catching your feed in vertical mode in your shorts feed. And so if they're only watching shorts, they're never going to go watch your long form content.
Right. And
Right.
most of the younger generation, they like that TikTok and Instagram where it's real short stuff.
The average hook time, I think, is something like 3.267s.
Yeah. I mean,
David,
I don't know.
jokes.
But if you can pick up a few hundred good subscribers, that it makes it all worth it, I suppose. Uh,
Well, and the
you know,
thing is, the opportunity, the opportunity that it provides you is the opportunity to actually look into a new realm of people that may not watch your, um,
right.
may not see your content. They may never see your content
Absolutely,
because
and
they're
that's why I
not
say
there.
you get 10,000, if you get 200 or 300 really good, uh, people that are actually interested in the topic that you're saying, it makes it worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like I was just thinking about. I've watched like when I've been traveling. What did I do on my phone? Well, I just turned my phone sideways and it played in landscape mode.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so and it was bigger then. I mean, because I've got like a Apple 14 Pro or whatever, the big one. So, but it's basically more exposure, like Coach is saying.
Yep. Well, cool. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna deviate from that discussion because I want to go
Sure,
ahead and
sure.
start digging into
Sorry,
this topic.
squirrel.
Well, I mean, we do this all the time. It's just, it's just what happens. It's expected. All right. So first off, I want to say Happy Father's Day. And again, I correct myself when I say this. The official name is Father's Day, I call it Happy Dad's Day, and I think that there's a significant difference between a dad and a father. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. The other thing that I want to do today is I also want to talk about, so what is the difference between a dad and a father? I want to kind of go over some of that, but I want to go over some of the things that you can do to honor a dad, or if you're a dad, some of the things that you can do to honor your kids or your spouse. Because again, if you are a single dad because of divorce or a loss or a death in the family, if you are a married couple and you're a dad and you have that right, there's things that you can do right as a father, even on today's day, to continue to honor your family and honor your kids and honor friends that are fathers that you look up to and you respect. Because just like raising a child, whether it be, mother, father, mother by herself, father by herself, two ladies, two men, whatever your combination might be, no one raises a child alone. No one, right? And there's the old adage, it takes a village. And so, as fathers, what we need to do as fathers is we need to find mentors. We need to find men who not necessarily agree with us. Okay, putting a sword in a sheath, and I don't mean that in any connotation other than putting a sword in a sheath, um, but doesn't do anything for the edge of the sword. Over time, it'll protect it. It'll keep it from getting dull if the sheath is made right, but it doesn't do anything to sharpen it. In order for a sword to be sharpened, you have to have metal on metal, or you have to have metal on a stone. And so, as men, in order to sharpen ourselves, we need to surround ourselves with men who have same moral aptitude, same moral values, have different viewpoints, have more experience, have less experience. We can learn a lot from people who are brand new, looking back and going, "Oh, you know what? I didn't do that. You know what? I didn't think of it that way. You know what? Times have changed. I didn't think about how to handle certain things like that." But we need to make sure that we include our older generation because they're the ones who have the most experience. There's a quote that I said yesterday when I was in Tiger Stackers, and I'm going to read this, and it's by Ben Fountain, and it says, "Much of life, fatherhood included, okay, is the story of knowledge acquired too late." I was like, if the quote ended there, I would love this quote because it's fact, right, Eric? I mean, man,
Yes, sir.
how many times have you
Absolutely.
done something, you do it, you come back and you're like, oh man, I wish I would have known that an hour ago. Or you punish your kid for doing something, you're like, oh damn, I wish I would have understand the full intent of this. Right?
Well,
That's
I
just
mean,
go ahead.
even hindsight, how many times with your father did he tell you something or give you a piece of advice and you're like, he don't know what the heck he's talking about. And
Yeah.
then 20 years later, you're like, man, if I would have only listened to him then instead of having to wait 20 years to actually figure it out.
Well, the other thing that he says is it's like, if I'd only know what I know now, how much smarter, abler, stronger, and adept would I have been? And nothing really prepares you for kids, or those swells of emotions that roll through your chest like the rumbling of boulders tumbling down a hill, nor for the all enveloping labor of it, or the sheer mullish endurance you must insist or need for the 600 or 700 discrete tasks that have to be done each and every day. And as a dad, and again, we had Mother's Day, so I'm not singling out, or separating mothers from this. This is Father's Day. This is our day. And you don't like it. Well, guess what? It's our day, right? We're the 20th.
Yeah, well, Mother's Day, they split it. We've all been called a mother here and there.
Yeah, well,
And
yeah, exactly.
we get a little bit of that, but nobody calls them a father. So they don't get none of our day. So that there's probably a reason why it's a little less
I'm really glad you said that, Eric, because that kind of ties into another point that I want to get into today. Divorce is a vile thing. And I say
Yes.
that not because a man and a woman can't get along or whatever your relationship structure is. Okay. I'm not going to get into the politics of it. I'm not going to get into all of that. What I am going to say is this. Okay. I cannot teach my daughter how to be a woman.
But you can try.
I can teach her what it means to understand respect, and I can teach her what it means to have a man who treats her like a woman. I can teach her what it looks like to treat a person with dignity and kindness and respect and grace. I can show her what it is to treat a woman with grace and respect and honor. But I cannot teach her to be a woman. You need a mother to do that, or you need
That is
somebody
true.
who is a mother figure to do that. See, as single parents, right, we have the task of trying to identify the entire scope of our kids. And I'm telling you, folks, you can't do it alone,
And everyone is different. You can't
right?
depend on the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth kid being the same as anyone before them.
That's exactly right. And so one of the things that is important, and I want to talk, and again, I'm talking to dads. Now, if you're a mom and you're a single mom and you're here, man, I stand with you. My mom was a single mom. My stepdad wasn't in the picture much. My real dad died fairly early in my life. So I had my father figure was my granddad, some of his army buddies, and a neighbor down the street. They were the ones who I exemplified fatherhood from. So I had to learn lessons from other men outside of who was dad, right? And so I still to this day, now, I have friends, a couple of them on YouTube, a couple of them from my old military days, a couple of them from just general friendship that happened. And this morning I sent a message, and I'm going to read you one of them. Now, I sent this. Now, you guys know Mad Stacker. I highly respect Mad Stacker. He's a good friend of mine. He's a man of faith. Um, and him and I talk, and I absolutely respect who he is as a person. Um, he's a good dad. He's a good, general-hearted person, and he and I alike get passionate. And a lot of times, people think that we're like ignorant asses, but in fact, all it is we're just passionate about what we're doing, and we're all in. When we go in, we go all in. And so sometimes people think we're jerks when we don't mean to be. And I sent a message to him and a couple other people who I consider fatherish figures. Now, when I say fatherish figures, I don't necessarily mean fatherish figures to me. I'm talking about somebody that I can look at, respect, honor, and go, this is a person that if I have a dad issue, being a dad, son's issues, daughter issues, whatever, I can go to them because they understand. So my first one is acknowledge the people in your life who have acted as a friend, a mentor, or a father figure. So today I sent about 15 messages out. I didn't send them out to everybody because there are certain people that really hold a key element to my to the world of me being a father. And the message was this: Happy Father's Day, my friend. Be well, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. And thank you for all you've done for me, either as a mentor, as a friend, or as an example of what a dad should be. Thank you. And that's it. It's simple. It's easy. But the one thing that you can do for a dad, if they are a mentor, a friend, if they are somebody who has actually stood in a fathership role for you, is just tell them thanks. It's quite easy. It's not rocket science. And sometimes you can do general messages, like I sent that same message to 8 different people. But it's because they are either a friend, a mentor, or have been an example of what a dad is to me. And they all fall into that same basic category. So I can send that. Now I sent 3 messages specifically to the closest people that are genuinely mentors. And I sent different messages to them. And the one was specific. And I'm going to state this. This was a commander that I had. And I was brand new to a role. And I sent him a message and it said, Sean, you had some amazing impacts in my life. One of the greatest lessons I learned was the correction you gave me when I first started the agency, and I emailed our chief directly. Now, the chief in this case was a 4-star general at the very top. He was in charge of the service. And he had asked a question, and there were some things going on, and I was brand new to the organization, and I have always worked public sector. So when they say, when you get a CEO that says, if you have an issue, I want you to come directly to me, that means go directly to them. Most time they'll say, go to my assistant or go to the deputy or go to whoever. And he sent an email. He says, if you have an issue, email me or the chief. And I had an issue. It was a positive thing. It wasn't negative. I wasn't slamming or degrading the thing. And I sent the message and I carbon copied my commander at the time. And he came over like a freaking lightning bolt. He immediately sat down next to me and he said, I understand what you did, why you did it, but what you did was wrong. And let me explain why. This is a military style organization. And because of this, we have this structure. We have the chain of command. We have to follow, blah, 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 walk through the entire thing. I sent an email following up saying, you're a good kid. You know what's going on. This is what's happening. You have a good heart. You really are taking the agency in positive directions. The short time you've been here, you made significant impacts. Hopefully he doesn't throw a fit. And he corrected me very, very sternly, but with grace. And it was a lesson that stuck with me all the way through my professional career, even today. And it's something that I don't do very well. And every time I act upon something negatively, or I'm really harsh with my kids, I have to stop and go back and go, did I show them the grace that I was once shown? So I sent him a very specific message. And he sent me a message back that says, you don't know how much I needed this message today. Thank you. So again, as fathers, as people who have people in our lives that had significant impacts in who we are as men, or who we are as fathers, or who we are as dads, tell them. That's the best thing that you can do today to honor another friend or father. Tell them. Let them know that you appreciate them, and let them know that you appreciate what they do. Because anybody who's a parent knows this. Sometimes it's a thankless job. And having somebody let you know that you're appreciated is usually all that anybody needs. So that's the first thing that I really want to do today. Now, I'm going to read you something that he wrote me back. He just actually sent this. He said, oh man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that story. It's important for all of us. It's much better to think things through. And we've seen these in new lights as opposed to don't do that. I do that a lot. I'm the don't do that guy. Continuing making mistakes and learning from them is okay. It's acceptable. The hardest thing I had to do was give myself grace. If I can give you any lesson, it's this. OCD is a perfectionist disease and something that'll never be achieved. Abide by grace. Have an amazing Father's Day, my friend. So again, obviously you can tell that Sean is a mentor for me. He is a person who I embody great professional admiration to. He is a brilliant man. He is extremely adept at being a father, being a man of dignity and care. But he's also a man who is willing to set himself aside from his high position and say, hey, what do you need? Right? And as men, we need that. We need people who are smarter than us. Eric, when it comes to coins, I defer to his expertise a lot. A Chuck, I defer to his expertise a lot. Jack Young, I defer to his expertise a lot. Joe Cronin, Blue Ridge Silverhound, Silver Seeker. There's so many people that are really smart in the coin community, and I do what's called deference to expertise. You reach out to those people who are smarter than you in order to learn. And then when you learn it, you take the information that was imparted to you and you share it out. This is what we do as fathers. We take the lessons that we learn and we try to give them to our kids to help our kids and to try to do that kind of stuff and to do that. So again, number one is to make sure that you surround yourself with good, solid people who can sharpen iron, that can make you sharp, that can make you pointed, that can keep you on top of your game. But those people that are that for you, reach out to them today and tell them that you appreciate them. That's Frosty's number one. So I'm going to stop there. Eric, do you have anything that you want to say on that front as
No,
a father?
sir. I think you covered it all.
I think that when I was looking at doing this, it was like, I want to do kind of the same thing. And mine was honoring my mom and letting people know how much I honored my mom and how much I love my mom. And even though she's been a pain in the ass for a number of years, the intent of that was always love, respect, and trying to do what she could to make sure that I had all
Well,
the experiences in life to make decisions.
that was kind of the point I was making with my father saying, "Hey, you really should think about doing something like this or this and this and this," and me going, "Ah, you don't know what you're talking about." When he really did was they can be a pain, but they never have anything but your best interest at heart. Uh,
For the most part, that's true. Now, again, when we're talking about this, again, we're talking generalizations
at
and
least my
specifics.
father,
Yeah.
he only had my best interest. That's the only thing he actually cared about.
So I will. I'm not going to get into personal stories until a little bit later. There's a couple stories that I want to share with people as far as where I am at and the areas as a father that I struggle and wisdom that I would impart to those people who deal with that same structure, that deal with that same issue. And I'll get to that to a minute. Um, so I'm going to ask you, Eric, not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask you, how would you, is your dad still alive or did he
He
passed
has
away?
been deceased 15 years now.
Okay. When you went to your dad, how did you approach your dad? Or did you guys have the conversations where you could just sit down and talk and you could do the
Oh
heart to
yeah,
hearts?
I would just say, "Hey, Dad," and he'd go, "What's up?" And we were great friends. But he wasn't my friend. The word friend is we were family. I mean, he understood everything. I could tell him the worst things in my life, and uh, he would call me a dumbass, but then he would go right back into trying to help me and to guide me and to make things better without fixing them. He never fixed things for me. He always made me fix things for myself. He was like a therapist. My wife just chimed in from the back. He was very, very good at pointing you in the right direction and having you uh, deal with your own problems, and he would be there to lean on.
Yeah, see, my stepdad was polar opposite. He was not a very kind man. Now, he was to my daughter or to my sister, excuse me. Now not his daughter, my sister, which would have been his stepdaughter. He absolutely loved my sister, but um for his oldest girl and me, he wasn't really that great of a dad. Um and there were there were a lot of things that came from that I had for many years resentment until I became a dad and understood that he just didn't have the tools to be the kind of dad that I needed at the time. And it was less of a an issue with him and more of an issue with he never reached out to anybody else to get advice. He was the consummate I'm right you're
Well,
wrong.
hey, my dad, his
Right.
mantra was, "I may not be right, but I'm never wrong."
Well, this guy, again, it was, he would tell jokes and stupid stuff like, that uh, when we were young, the babysitter would come over and he's like, if the president calls, let me know. And it was like, why the hell would the president call you? Like, that's just not funny. I didn't understand his humor at the time. I didn't think he was funny. He didn't treat me with respect as a kid. And again, so I didn't learn the real value of fatherhood from my stepdad, and my real dad was out of the picture because of things that happened, and so I never really got to learn and know who my dad was, and actually got to dig into that. My grandfather was the one who actually embedded that role for me. Hey, Jack Stacker, happy birthday, happy Father's Day. Sorry. Um, But what my grandfather used to do is we had talks while playing cards. So if I needed to talk to him, it was always, "Hey, you want to play a game?" Or if he saw something was going on, he was like, "Hey, come in here and let's play rummy."
Yeah,
Hey kid, you want to play some cards?" Sure. Because he knew something was bothering me. And I didn't understand it as a kid. I just knew that my grandfather and we never talked about problems, right? And then as I got older, I sat down one time with my daughter and I was like, "Hey, let's go play a game." And she's like, "Okay." And we were sitting there and I was like, "What happened?" And she goes, "Dad, thanks for talking with me." And I stopped and I looked at her and I was like, "Oh my God. My granddad talked to me all like I didn't really understand." And I was in my like 40s.
sure.
And I
No, hey,
realized, oh my God, my dad had, or my granddad had such a subtle method about him. And so, again, now I love my granddad. I was there when my granddad passed away. He had a heart attack. I'm the one that performed CPR on him until the paramedics arrived. So I have absolute love, and I think about my grandfather all the time. And I've always stated, I wish I could be half the man my grandfather was. His grace, his humility, his tact, the kindness that he exuded. And I try, and I'm really good at that until it comes to my own sons. And my own sons, I'm just like, oh my God, you guys, what the hell are you thinking? Like, why don't you just, do you not know how to be on time? Like, and I get the word. Um, Kind of like
the late
beside. Go ahead.
lateness that would drive me crazy.
Well, it's
Um,
kind of bewildered. There's the word, bewildered. Of like, how can you guys? You talk about how you want to do all this stuff, but you don't want to invest the time to actually work. You want
a
us to
lot of
do
people
stuff,
don't. They
but
want to get rich
yeah.
quick, free.
And it's like, and so me, like when I was 14, 15 years old, I saw some guys, and I had learned how to do sprinkling systems from a family friend. I worked since I was like 12 or 13, digging ditches, putting sprinklers together. Um, did that every year, part time job. Paid me a couple $100 a month to just help him dig and put stuff together. And I got to the point to where I could basically install entire sprinkling systems um, with the help, and then they would build the valves and do the testing and then sign off on everything. And my oldest boy has no desire to learn any of that stuff. He's more the mechanical, the gearhead, the stuff like that. My youngest son, he likes learning how to do things like that, but he doesn't want to do anything. Like it's just like, oh my God. Um, but now I understand the angst of you can't live vicariously through your kids and they have to learn their own lessons. And
You can
God,
only try to point them in the right direction. That was my point of my dad telling me stuff. Almost everything he ever told me, as advice was true. He never tried to steer me in the wrong direction, and it took me years after to think back and go, "Wow, he was right. I should have did if I would have did this then, I would have been in a far better place than I am."
Well, and again, I go back to that Ben Fountain comment about the story acknowledged of the story and knowledge is acquired too late. And I know for a fact that the kids have to do that stuff. It's just hard to see them do stupid stuff,
Yeah, when
or
you see them make mistakes,
or
you feel the
I'm the one that
pain.
has to pay for them. Like, hey, Dog World, thank you for the $10 super chat. Thank you so much for being in here. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. I have a difficult time letting go of. It's like, dude, just get off your butt and go. Do it. Move. Um, because it's not beneficial to them. It's like, okay, well, what's your plan? Well, I have a plan. Well, what is it? Well, I'm gonna get some money. Well, how are you gonna get some money? I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. Where's your plan?
Right.
Right? Where's your plan? Um, and so grace is something that I have to work on. And now here's the thing. You talk about my daughter, it's just the opposite. I can treat her with grace abound because I treat her like what I believe a woman should be treated like. I treat her like a woman. I don't treat her like a child. And I don't have the same issues that I do with my boys because my boys are boys and she's my daughter. And she does her thing and they do their thing. And I don't have to deal with it. She's self motivated. She does that stuff. She has issues herself, obviously. And we have to deal with some of that stuff. But the issues that she has is with her mom. She's a girl, her mom, they fight heads, they fight for control over situations, and her mom butt heads. But me and my daughter do not. And so, men, we're trying to sit heads of the family. My oldest son loves to sit in my chair at the dinner table because it's the head of the table. He loves sitting. I'm like, get out of my chair. Oh, boy. So you know what he does? He stays up until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and he sits in the chair all night. I don't really mind, but it's one of those things that I know and I see it now. So I look back at it and I'm like, he craves for this. He just doesn't know how to get there. And the problem is this is where I need mentors in my life. This is where I need people who have been there, done that, understood, because I do not know what my oldest son needs. I don't. I just don't understand what he needs. So I have to talk with people who have sons that are like my oldest son and say, how best can I help him? Wolf Metals, hard to see them do stupid stuff. But in this day and age, most of them don't learn from it. They let stupid stuff happen, so they learn. We just did it growing up. Stupid should hurt. And so, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. My
Well,
oldest,
part of the problem with being a dad is their stupidness hurts you.
well, yeah, well, the same thing with being a mom, right? Being a
Sure,
parent,
sure.
their stupidness hurts you. See you, David. Have a good day at church. Happy Father's Day. Hope you have a good one, bud. Thanks for coming in. But yeah, it's one of those things where, and I tell my wife wants to protect the boys, and it's like, stop. Let them do stupid stuff, right? Let them get fired. My youngest boy, and he was so happy he had an opportunity to become an electrician. He had a company who actually bent over backwards, reached out and said, we don't normally do this, but we're going to give you the opportunity. You are driven. You really want to do it. And he worked his butt off, bought his own tools, did everything, but he had a problem with waking up and being to work on time. And they let him go. He couldn't be there. And he was devastated. And him and I went toe to toe one day. And I stopped and I pulled him aside. I said, get your butt in the car. We're going to go have coffee. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk. I said, because I don't know what the hell is going on with you. But if you don't do this, you need to leave my home. Like it was bad. And I said, so I looked at him. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Now I used a couple of choice words. And I was like, why in the hell are you talking to me this way? Why are you acting this way? What in the hell is going on? And he looked at me and he kind of on the edge of tearing up and he said, I got fired. And I was like, oh. Grace. Here's where grace abounds, right? This is where you need to go. All right. Been there, done that. Let's talk about it. What did you learn from it? Right? And what happened? And he's like, well, they were cutting back the business. I said, no, 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 no. They told you they didn't do this at the head of time. What happened? He's like, well, I got up late a couple times, and I was like, oh man, what's the number one thing I always tell you? If you're not early, you're late,
That's
right?
right. If you're on time, you're late.
And so when you're showing up at a job that has to do with focus on this kind of stuff, one thing you need to do is you need to show up early, get yourself staged so that you can start on time. So what would that look like for you? And then he started going through and answering his own questions. And I was like, "Oh my God, this like I was so happy to have this conversation with him." And then he started saying stuff and doing other things. I was like, "Oh my God, here we go again. He's going to start making excuses." But that's where he needed to do that. Um and again, it became one of those things where I didn't end up having to answer any of his questions. I posed a couple questions and then he answered them himself. And when he was saying them, the light was going off, right? And he started to understand that. And so he found a job. This is the smartness of my younger boy. He found a job where he doesn't start until 10 o'clock in the afternoon or 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock. Because he knows he can wake up by 9. He just couldn't wake up at 6:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning.
Heck, my day's half done at 6:30 in the
Oh
morning.
yeah, well, yeah. So, um, but again, it's one of those things where he took it, he figured out his own thing, he figured out his plan, and he did his thing. Um, and so, well, that's what I said, Coach. In construction, right, or any job, you should get there a half hour early, get your stuff staged, so that when your day starts, you're on time. Um, and it doesn't matter if you're there and you're still putting things together when the clock starts, as long as you're not getting there and then having to take the first 30 or 40 minutes to stage your workstation up. So he was showing up 30 minutes late, then taking 30 minutes to do his work. He was an hour late and he didn't understand that. He needed to be able to say that himself. Rewards rather than outcome. Nurture your child's interest. Avoid the motivational talk. Focus on strengths. Let them make mistakes. Give Teach them to give and volunteer. Um, so motivational talks are for coaches, not for parents, right? Um, the hey, you can do this, but a motivational talk isn't always a positive thing, and people need to remember that. Um, Sometimes motivation can be held in terms of financial withdrawal, um, reduction in pay, reduction in benefit, reduction in whatever. There's different ways to esteem motivation. So I agree with avoiding motivation. Those should be held by people like coaches and bosses, right? That's where the motivation should come in. I think focusing on strengths and letting your kids make their own mistakes is the role of a parent. It's the role of a dad. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. Um, but again, it's one of those things where I I've had good conversations with both of my sons, but to be able to look at them and when the light finally goes off, it's like, wow. Like he gets it. Like he understood finally what was being said after all these times. So anyway, just a really cool story about making sure that you do that. And I wanted just to share kind of that with you. It's hard to watch them make the same stupid mistakes you did at their age. I don't I don't mind them making the same mistakes. I just want them to learn faster than I did because no one ever became better by doing everything right. I have no problem with making mistakes. I have no problem, even in work environment. Do a job above your skill level. Stretch yourself, explore what possibilities. figure out solutions. Do things that scare you,
Well, the best
right?
education is a mistake.
Yeah. And so, well, I don't want to do that because I might fail. No, you only fail if you quit. You fall down 1,000 times. It doesn't matter. So you look at Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison was really good when talking about people or talking about experiences, right? He's like, how many light bulbs did I make before the one worked? And the guy was like, I don't know. And it's like, well, that's my point. I can tell you I have my log. All you know is I'm the one that created the light bulb. But thousands of failures. Filaments, elements, glass, vacuum, air, no air, the amount of voltage that was being passed through it. Some would work for a little while, some would burn out, some burned out immediately. There were no rhyme or reason in some of the issues. It's not it working immediately is not the issue. It's being able to solve the problem. How do you identify? How do you work through the issue? That's the important thing. How do you come to the answer? Right? This is one thing that my daughter hates because looking at things like math and having to show your answer. She's like, "What does it matter if I have to show my work for the problem? I got the right answer." It's like, "Yes, but do you understand how you got there?" Well, yes, I understand this problem. Well, walk me through it. That's correct. No, that's not right. You got the right answer, but you did it wrong. This is where it's wrong. And if this value would have been this, that number wouldn't have been right. It just so happened that it worked out. So and so walking through those kind of things. Now she's far better at math than I am. And the math today, good God, I can't even begin to explain it. But it's one of those things where it's like, showing your work and understanding why something happened, understanding the why. Simon Sinek says this a lot, and I like Simon Sinek for this particular reason. And he's like, know your why. Why are you doing this? Because I told you so is a answer. Right? I hate that response because I said so. That's a crap response. Why should you learn it? Because it's in your best interest. Why? Because it's something that'll help you down the road. It's going to teach you how to problem solve. It's going to help you resolve issues. I'm not always going to be here to answer those questions for you. You need to be able to identify people who can. This is why you need to learn this lesson. Right? That's the second thing that I want to talk to everybody about. Okay? Identifying. Now, you can't point out friends to your kids. You can't tell them what friends they can and can't have. They'll have them. They have to make their decisions and stuff on their own. My youngest boy had a massive issue. I'm not going to get into it, but he got into some pretty bad situations. And he finally realized that he had to separate himself from a bunch of friends that he had. Totally and utterly separate. Remove him from social media, take him from the phone, block him on email, everything. Like just totally ghost him, get rid of him, be done with him, not go to those areas of town, just stay away from those particular items. And this is a lesson that he learned on his own. But the one thing that I wanted to do is I wanted him to understand what a mentor would be. So we talked a little bit about some of the things that could happen in his areas of interest. And I reached out to some people that I know and I said, hey, who's an expert on this? Whether it be written, whether it be verbal, whether it be video, TikTok, Instagram, who are the experts? And who are the people who are the smartest about this? Give me those names. And then I took them to him and I said, hey, here's some people that you might find interesting, that are interested in what you do. These are people who are extremely smart in your area of interest. Watch them. Hopefully you find somebody that really speaks to you. Reach out to them and ask them to mentor you. And so it's one of those issues where, as a parent, it's good to teach your kid. Now, you can't give them mentors because the relationship between a mentor and a person oftentimes is the decision of the mentor, right? Now, you can be assigned a mentor, and that relationship can be built of something. It just never works the same. But what you can do is you can teach them what a mentor is. You can teach them through that. You teach them that by utilizing the first one, which is identifying those within your own life and being able to share those resources with you. One thing that I do every once in a while is we have my godfather to my daughter. His name is John. He's a good guy, and my youngest son absolutely loves him. He's a good dude. He's funny. He's silly, whatever. And when we get together, I always try to take my youngest son. If he's around, I try to take my youngest son along. And when stuff really got bad, he was like, "Hey, do you mind if I call John?" I never told him he had to. I never introduced him to that, but he saw that was there and he identified that. He was able to identify a potential mentor for himself. So the second thing that I would say as a father is introduce your kid to the best of your friends. When you guys have a guys' night out, two, three, four of you, where it's sane, it's safe, it's whatever. As long as your kid is old enough, take them with you. You don't have to do it all the time, but take them, introduce them to people, show them what it's like to have good, honest, respectable friends. Jack, I raised two daughters and have a lot more gray hair.
Ain't that the truth?
Oh, God, that's funny. That's the best thing I've read in a long time, Jack. And it's truth. Now, my sons have caused me more gray than my daughter has. I'm really blessed with my daughter. You guys know Bifrost. You know what she's like. You see the art. We do a lot of stuff together. Her and I have an amazing, amazing relationship. But the relationship that my daughter and I have has been fraught through years and years and years of custodial turmoil between her mother and I. And what my daughter saw was that I showed grace through that process, and she loves me for it. So my relationship with my daughter is hard fought, right? I would bend over backwards. She's blood. She's the blood of my blood, right? So she is my own biologic daughter, where my other sons are stepsons. Now, just because they're stepsons doesn't mean I love or appreciate or respect them any less. I hold them to the same standard, and oftentimes my daughter to the same standard that I hold my boys to in certain areas, fiscal responsibility, hygiene, things of that nature. And but when you're, as far as a man, introduce your kids, primarily the guys in your family, but introduce your kids to the best of your friends. The guys who are magnanimous, the guys who show grace and tact, the guy who treats your daughter with the same respect you do when they come over and have a barbecue at the house. The guy who won't swear in front of your wife or your daughter, but will in front of your sons, as long as it's okay with dad. Right? The man that respects your belief structure and the stuff. Introduce your sons and your daughters to those people and show them what it is to have good, solid friends. When you have a friend who would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, "Do I need my jack or do I need my pistol?" Right? Those friends are the people that you need in your life, because those are the ones that they'll come to bat for you, to protect you, to safeguard you, no matter what happens. Right? And so you want to make sure that you introduce your kids. So the second one is teach your kids, introduce your kids to good, solid people. Now, if you're religious, then introduce people who are men of God. If you're not, then just choose people who are magnanimous. Okay, religion isn't something that I force upon anybody. If you believe it and that's what you abide by, then do it. But I'm not going to tell you what anybody has to do when it comes to religion. Our foundation of that is freedom of choice. You make that choice yourself. And if that's what you abide by, then that's what you abide by. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. However, I am not your typical whatever model. I don't hold myself to any higher standard because of my personal thoughts and beliefs. And I'm not going to force my thoughts or beliefs down your throat. I'm going to tell my kids that I don't force the thoughts or beliefs down their throat. But if that's what you
Hey,
believe in,
Frosty,
that, yeah, go ahead.
I've got to take off. I've got a 10:30 commitment.
Yeah, no worries, brother.
I hope everybody has a great Father's Day, and I will see everybody soon.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you coming up. Yeah, Dan, I don't like being late. It drives me insane. Um, I have I have issues where if we're going to dinner at 7 o'clock and you decide at 6:55 to jump in the shower, you're going to get left home. I don't wait for you. Um, Especially because I always let people know hours ahead of time. I don't like being late. If we're leaving at a certain time, we're leaving at a certain time. Um, if you can't be responsible for that, then that's up to you. That's your situation. You know, you have to find a way to get to the restaurant. If that means you have to walk or take your bike, whatever, then that's what you have to do. But again, number two in Frosty's, being a dad and how you can show respect and stuff. Teach your kids the meaning of friendship. Show them what it is to have a mentor, and make sure that you support them in that regard. Now, if anybody wants to come up, again, you're more than welcome to send me an email and say, "Hey, I want to come up. I want to be on panel. There's a story that I want to talk about." You're more than welcome to send me an email, exclamation point email. We'll bring up the email, send me something. I'm going to make sure that it is who it is, and then I'll invite you up. I'll send you the link. But again, I just wanted to take some time and talk about some things. Now, there is another thing that you can do. Are you able to resize chat or move it? It cuts off parts and ends of sentence. Yeah, hold on. Let me. How was that? The better? I think that should be better. Yeah, thanks for catching that. I didn't even notice that. So, good catch. Thank you. I appreciate that. Outstanding. Yeah, I think that's much better. Thanks, Wolf. Appreciate it. Um, the other thing is, and this is something that if you have a dad or you have a friend who's a really good dad, you have a good, solid mentor in your life, there is something that I want to introduce you to. And this is something that, again, hey, James, good to see you. Thanks for being here, bud. Um, I'm going to post this in chat. And what this is a company called Urban Life. Now, urbanlife.org is a nonprofit organization, and what they do is they recognize dads from all walks of life. And the purpose for this particular foundation or this agency is to award and promote good fatherhood, dadship, if you would, through positive and meaningful recognition. Because sometimes being a father is a thankless job, and sometimes it is one of those things that I don't expect gifts on this day. I want my family to be around. We can have a barbecue. But you know what I really like kids to do? I would really like kids to do something and just say, "Hey, Dad, you know what? I know we needed to take care of this, so I went ahead and I mowed the yard." Or, "Hey, Dad, I went and took your car and got it washed and uh, tuned it up." Or I went and hey, I got the oil change in your car done. And or, "Hey, I know you've been wanting to get your car detailed, so me and a buddy took the car last night and we got it detailed and got it all cleaned up, and we did this kind of stuff." I would love for my kids to show a little bit of private flex in their time for something for me, right? But a lot of people don't know how to do that. And so if you're in a situation where you don't necessarily know how to do that, this gives what they call a Good Dad Award, and it's an annual award honoring the accomplishments and sacrifices that dads make. Okay, these are people within our community who exhibit things like exemplary behavior, responsibility, selflessness, hard work, and dedication to family. Now, it's not anything crazy. There is some criteria and stuff that needs to be there. You can't go recognize yourself. They kind of frown on that. Um, and you can honor somebody that isn't your dad. You don't have to be the child of the father as long as you have an association and can vouch for it. You have to have the submission made the first Sunday in April every year. So you can't do it this year, obviously. It's already Father's Day, but you can do it next year. It's something that you can think about. And if you have people in your life, and again, this falls back to number one, is having a mentor and having people. Iron sharpens iron. So as each man will sharpen each other, it's our experiences and the willingness to grow as men that allow us to be sharper in who we are in our work, in our relationships, and as fathers. So again, if you want to do something like that, that's a great opportunity. That's a good little nonprofit that you can do. Click on that, go check that out. It's something, again, next year, April timeframe. If you want to do a Good Dad Award or something like that, it's a really cool thing that you can do for somebody to honor a good friend or a mentor or somebody who's done something awesome for you for Father's Day. If you're a younger generation or you have your dad that's still alive and you want to do something really cool, well, they get publicly recognized. That's something else that you can do. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do for your dads. Now, like my daughter, there's a couple things that she does for me. She writes me little memos. She draws me little artsy stuff, tells me, best dad ever. Love you, man. I can't thank you so much for allowing me to join on your stream. She participates in my hobbies. She's made me snacks, like she's actually cooked me stuff. And so she does little things. We play games. She loves to play checkers. We play Chinese checkers. We play cards. We play dominoes. We do all sorts of stuff. Her honor to me is time. She just wants to spend time with me. And that's how my daughter honors me. So again, when you're looking at, well, I don't know or what to do for my dad, or, it's like, well, I don't really know what to ask. If there's something that you want to do, invite your kid to do it. Right? If you want to do something for Father's Day, fathers, take charge of the situation and say, hey, kids, I would really appreciate it if you saved your own money and we went, let's say you like to go golfing. Let me treat you to a round of golf. Hey, you really want to go see that movie? Hey, you know what? Let's go. And take your kids to go see a movie. Go sit down afterwards and talk about what your favorite part was. You want to go do something like you want to go to the coin show, or you want to go do something. Involve your kids in something that you're passionate about. Take time. Talk to them. Ask your kids what they're interested in doing. Like, your kids like music, and let's say that you have a museum of music in your area. Take your kids to the museum. A lot of places are open on Father's Day. A lot of places don't close because of things like this. A lot of those type environments are open because it's the weekend and they have those things available. Do that. As a dad, hey, you have a special project that you want to do. Hey, I know you really wanted to put that table together. Why don't you and I do that today? Why don't you and I take time? Hey, honey, I'm going to spend time with my son for a minute. I'm going to help him build this. Him and I are going to spend some good quality time. You should be doing that all the time anyway, but take time and just focus on the kid and say, you know what, it's Father's Day and I wanted to just take some time for it to be me and you. I want to acknowledge you're my kid today. Father's Day doesn't necessarily have to be about somebody giving you something. My mom used to joke with me saying, hey, your birthday, you should buy me a gift. And you know what? I think it's in fact, sometimes it's true. And I do stuff and I call my mom on birthday and I tell her thank you and I appreciate it and I love her. And she's like, it's your birthday. And I understand, but I wouldn't be here without you. My wife a couple years ago. I bought her a bike on Father's Day. I gave her a bike on Father's Day because she has done so much to make me a better man and to come beside and show me the grace and the humility and kindness that I don't deserve. So I honored my wife on Father's Day by providing her and presenting her with a gift. So there are things that you can do to make Father's Day special that are a little bit different from the norm. Mother's Day jewelry and all that stuff and flowers and the big dinner and the big sale and all that crazy stuff. That's moms. Moms need to be recognized. They do a ton of stuff and they have that day. But Father's Day can be something different if you want it to be. Take charge of your day and do what needs to be done. Wolf Metals. The best part of coming home after work is having your boy run up with a smile arms and saying, Dada, I missed you. Oh, man. I used to love coming back and my daughter running me at the airport. It's like, that's my daddy. I love it. And, or, I told you I'd talk about a couple of personal stories later on about being a father. But yeah, it's those things that matter. And so here's the question, Wolf Metal, speaking of something like that specifically, do you think your kid's going to remember Father's Day if they buy you a tie or if you take them out for ice cream and you say, today's Father's Day. Do you know what Father's Day is? It's a day where people stop and take a minute to think about the people in their life who are like a father. Hey, me, what's going on, bud? Hopefully you got the yard mowed. I know you got a big drive ahead of you. Take care of yourself. Drive safe, brother. And I appreciate you as a friend. Happy Father's Day to you. Hey, Joyce, how you doing? Good to see you. But how do you make more of an impact as a dad? You know what you do? If you have a young kid, and I know we have grandfathers in here. You can do this with your grandkids. You can do this with your son and your grandkids. Take them out and say, hey, I wanted to make Father's Day about you. I want you to know that I appreciate you. Thank you for all that you've done for me. And, make sure that things are taken care of. No sound. Everybody else has sound, right? Or is it just me? I'm showing sound on my end. We don't celebrate Father's Day. Well, you don't have to celebrate it, but you can acknowledge it, right? And this is something that I don't expect anything. What I want today is we're gonna barbecue some steaks. We're gonna have we're gonna cook some food and we're gonna eat, and we got a tiramisu cake, and we are going to just hang out and do our thing, right? So thanks, me. And again, it's one of those things. Yeah, Kraken, I completely understand, bud. And that's again, this is why you need those people in your life to come alongside, especially when there's a loss of a child. That's something that I completely understand, bud. But you don't have to make this about you. You can take time and acknowledge those people in your life who made a difference in your life and make this day is something where you say, you know what, I'm taking Father's Day and I'm going to take time and I'm going to make this about you. And again, I told you the story about I did that for my wife a number of years ago and gave her a nice Trek triathlon bike and said, I gave it to her on Father's Day, and she told all her friends, and they're like, what the hell? It's Father's Day. You should have been doing something for him. And I was like, I want her to understand that I wouldn't have resolved some of the situations that I had if it wouldn't have been for my wife coming alongside of me. I was overweight. I was unhealthy. I'm still a little overweight. A lot of that came from an injury, but she motivated me to be better, to grow myself. I became an Ironman because of her. Did things that I thought I would never ever do again because of her, and I wanted to honor her by doing something specific for her in her interest and let her know that on my day I honored and respected her. Now, am I telling you that you have to go do something for your wife on Father's Day? No. But I'm saying if you're looking for something to do, you want to make an impact on who you are as a father, it's another item, another venue in which you can honor those people, in which you can have those people alongside of you and say, hey, on this day, I want you to know how much I appreciate you. So it's almost 10 o'clock. We got about 20 minutes till 10 o'clock. And I know a lot of people have got church, they've got family breakfasts and things they're going to do. So I'm going to talk about three stories really quick. I'm going to take a couple minutes and tell you about three stories that really impacted my life as a dad. The first one is the birth of my daughter. Obviously, my stepkids weren't involved at that time. I didn't know my current wife at that time and didn't have a child. And I remember being in the hospital and being there when my daughter was born. And because of some of the experiences I had and talking with the physician, I actually am one of the few people. I'm sure that there's other dads out there. It's changed now. You can't do it now. They don't allow you to because of insurance purposes and things of that nature. But I actually got to catch my daughter. I actually got to work with the doctor. Now her hands were there and she was guiding me and where to hold, what to do, and do all of that stuff. And I got to put the clips on and cut the umbilical cord. And obviously everything was there, but I actually got to birth my child. And it was an amazing time. It connected me to my daughter in a way that a lot of people don't understand because, especially today's day and age, you don't get to do this very often. And so this is one of those things where I was like, oh my God, this is everything I wanted to do. And my daughter was born with a full head of hair. And I was like, oh my God. And I looked at my wife at the time and I was like, I know why you were so sick. Because she was born with a full head of hair. And I remember these stories and I remember her looking at me and I remember doing this. But 6 months, 7 months later, my ex-wife would say that she was taking a trip to Texas. And she called me from Texas and she says, I'm not coming back. If you want to be a dad, you know where we're at. But I can't be away from my family and friends. I can't be away from my social support. I can't do life alone. And you're just not enough. Now, she did say it in those specific terms, but that's basically what it boiled down to. Now, I wanted nothing more in life than to be a dad. So I quit my job, sold my house. My mom and I packed everything up. I put it in a container, called a friend of mine, the only friend I had in Texas, who just happened to be John, which is the godfather of my daughter, and said, I'm in a pickle. I'm in a situation. I need a place to stay for a couple months. I don't have a job. I'm coming there with nothing. I'm going to work my butt off to get started again. I'm going to start new. I'm going to start fresh. I need some grace. I need some support because I need to be a dad. So, folks, when I talk about being a father, anybody has the right to be a father. Anybody can physically be a father, but not everybody can be a dad. Not every man is a dad. And I wanted to be a dad. So I left everything I knew, family, friends, work, home, everything, and chased my daughter to make sure that I would be enveloped in her life and a part of her life. Now, it took me a couple months. And my daughter, first words were Dada. And Dada was first uttered on Father's Day in 2007. Now, my ex-wife, my wife at the time, yelled out a couple profanities because, of course, we had the little monitor, the baby monitor in there, and she was crying. And I went in Father's Day morning after working a long shift to pick her up, and the first word she did was Dada. It was actually on Father's Day. And then just weeks later, she would leave and take my daughter to Texas. And that's why I'm in Texas. That's why I'm here. That's how I got to Texas. I didn't come here because it was something that I had planned on doing. It was, I came here to be a father. I left everything to do that, to become a dad. And that's what a dad is to me. So when I say dad, I don't mean father. They are different in my book. She's my biological daughter. Yes, I'm her father in that regard, but I'm her dad. I'll bend over backwards, give him the world. I'll do everything I can to protect him. And so my daughter and I have a very special relationship. But Wolf a little while ago said the one thing about coming in and saying, Dada, I miss you, Dada. I hadn't seen my daughter for 3 or 4 months while we were packing, quitting the job, trying to get things taken care of, getting the container, selling the house, getting it cleaned up, packaging everything, and getting it here. And I picked my daughter up, and when I first got to Texas, my ex-wife picked me up from the airport. All right, now I take that back. She met me at a mall because I had the dog. She met me at a mall, and I drove the dog here, and my daughter didn't recognize me, didn't remember who I was. I picked her up, and she bawled. Gave her back, drove all the way back to Utah, packed up the house, and then drove all the way back to San Antonio. And we were on our way. I got a job interview, and I picked up my daughter. I was sitting in the back of the seat. We just pulled in, and I was trying to shift her. I had to change her. And she looked at me for a minute, and she smiled, and she said, Dada. Folks, there's nothing cooler in this world than your kid looking at you and understanding that you're their parent. Being a father, being a mother is something that is all inclusive in the art of love. If you think you know love and you don't have a kid, man, when you have a kid, your definition of love completely changes. And my daughter and I have gone through years of tumultuous situations where we have fought to stay close to each other despite some really nasty situations between my ex and myself. Now, over the years, the situations have calmed, and we are much better co-parents, and things are good now, no issues. She's totally changed as a person, and things are a lot better. And they have their issues. We have our issues. However, my daughter and I can sit down and talk at any time about a lot of things that a lot of fathers and daughters just don't talk about because we have that relationship. We have that opportunity. And fathers, be there for your daughters. Be there not only to allow them, but allow them the opportunity to come to you and share things with you without telling them how to fix it, right? We talked about that. So that's one story that I'd like to tell you, is that when I talk about being a dad, I take it very seriously. I have been through the ringer when it comes to trying to be a father to my kids. And I have worked very, very hard to be a good dad. And I have failed and failed and failed and failed over and over and over again, to stand back up and say, okay, what do I learn from this? How do I become a better dad? How do I avoid that situation in the future? And I make mistakes every day. I'll never claim to be a perfect parent, but I don't know that there's going to be too many people that will rival the love that I have for my kids or the desire that I have for them to be better, because I genuinely want my kids to grow up and be better, do better, have more, and resolve their issues quicker than I did, because I don't want them to go through some of the same struggles, especially as long as I had. Wolf Metal said he had a full head of hair, all 4 front teeth coming in already. The moment I got to see him, oh man. Were you on deployment or something? Deployment is another one for those military men and women. Now this is across the board. If you're a parent and you deploy and you're away from your kids, man, being a military spouse or being a military parent is no joke. I couldn't do it. I stayed single all the way through my service time. There's no way I could be away from my family like that. I see people do it over and over again. And if you are a military spouse, if you are a military member and you have kids and you sacrifice that time to serve our nation, to provide for its liberty, then man, I tip my hat to you. I think that's one of the most noblest things because I'll tell you, it is a sacrifice like not too many people know. And I give you huge, huge kudos to people who have had to serve on the fronts and be away from their kids for 6, 8, 9, 10, 12 months, 18 months at a time. So I hold high respect for those men and women who are in the chat right now, or the people who watch this video that are parents and have either served or are actively serving in our military. Or if you're in, Canada or England, or you're serving in another nation's military and you are there to defend your country's freedom, then again, my hat's off to you for the sacrifice that you do. All right, the last one that I'm going to do is a story about teaching your kids and being able to be graceful amidst having to punish them. And the last one is the one that cracks me up the most. Now, again, I've told you that I believe in Christ. I am a follower of Christ. I'm not your typical Christian. I don't throw it down people's throat. And I don't say typical. I don't mean to say it that way. Stereotypical is what I meant to say. I'm not going to throw my beliefs down anybody's throat. If you ask, I will talk to you about it. But I'm not going to preach, and I'm not going to tell you who you are, what you have to choose, and how you have to choose it, because it is not my job to change your life. If you want to know about it, I'll tell you about it. That's it. But my daughter was being a little tool. She was about 2.5, 3 years old. She was being a little tool. And I had enough. Scream and yell and tantrums. And this was not like her. And I looked at her and I said, and I'm going to call her Bifrost just because that's what you guys know her as. Bifrost, we are not watching a movie tonight. We're going to eat, we're going to get cleaned up, and we're just going to bed. No movie tonight. I'm done. I'm not playing this game with you anymore. You need to stop. And she just kind of looked at me. She's like, no movie. And we always watched a movie. We always sat on the couch, watched a movie, Princess Fairy, whatever, Barbie, or some sort of Stuart Little or some little movie. We always watched the same, like 10 or 12 movies. One of the ones, Wall-E, was one that we watched a lot over and over again. Cars and things like that. There were always the little videos that her and I just liked to sit down and watch. And I told her, no, we're not doing it tonight. You have been just a little terror today. And I've asked you and asked you and asked you, and you're throwing stuff and you've broke stuff. And no, tonight we're just not doing it. And so I put dinner on the table, and we always sat down. We always prayed before dinner. Hey, LLC, what's going on? And she said, Dad, I'm going to pray today. And I was like, okay. And I would give her the opportunity to pray. She had the opportunity if she wanted to. If not, then I would. But she was like, Dear God, help Dad see me like Jonah, who made a lot of bad decisions and spent time in the belly of a whale, but you took him to where he needed to go, and he did what he needed to do, and everything was good. Amen. And I'll tell you what, I couldn't be mad. I wanted to laugh. But my daughter understood something at that point in time. And it was when I first understood the lesson of making sure your kids really, like, your kids watch you, your kids learn, they grow. They understand, even at the age of 2 and 3, they understand more than we sometimes give them credit for. And what my daughter understood is she recognized that she was being somebody in a Bible story, and that she wanted me to show the same grace that happened in the story. And my daughter changed the remainder of the evening. She was sweet, she was kind. She put her stuff away. She picked up her silverware and took it over to her little kitchen thing and set it down. And I always, picked it up and did the dishes or whatever. And she realized at that time what she had done. She made the decision herself because she understood that there was going to be a punishment. So, folks, don't underestimate the knowledge that your kids possess. This is why at the beginning of the conversation, I stated that it's important for us to understand that when we surround ourselves with people, we need new parents in our circle. We need to be reminded of those things that we forgot. We need to be reminded of those lessons that kids learn. And the fact that our kids know more than sometimes we give them credit for. I'm sure you all have stories and lessons in that same regard. I'm going to challenge you all to do this today. This is my one charge before I wrap this up and go spend some time with my family. If you have stories like this in chat, not now, but in chat for the video, I'm going to ask you to put in a story. Talk about something where your kid had a significant impact on you. Talk about a person, a mentor who had a significant impact in your life. And let's continue this conversation. Now, I will answer as time permits today. Today, again, is going to be about family. So you probably won't see me very much in many streams. I will try and pop in here and there. But today is going to be about the family. I am taking the day to do stuff for my family. I'm taking charge of my day. And along with my wife, we're going to barbecue, we're going to make some stuff, and we're going to just visit. But if you have stories like that, do me a favor. Put them in that chat. Let's share and remember what it is to be a dad. Because again, to me, the definition of dad is the person who went and goes far above and beyond to do the best that they could to provide for either their child or for somebody in the act of being fatherly. All right, folks. Love you all. Appreciate you. I know this has been, again, we deviate from the numismatic side of things. But on today, I wanted to take a minute and honor the fathers. If you're a dad or you're acting in the capacity of a father, if you're a dad or if you are acting in the mentorship role to somebody, then I honor you with a salute today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming into the live stream. If you're just coming in and you haven't seen it and you want to know more of what's it about, again, you can listen to this later on. But again, if you have a story about your dad, story about you being a dad, or about your kids doing something, please do me a favor. And when the video's over and the chat is no longer live and it's just that thing, put a story in there and let's continue this conversation. All right, y'all. Love you a ton. Be well, be blessed. Go spend time with that family. If you've lost a loved one and you're alone during this time frame or you have serious thoughts, 988, folks. Okay, you're not alone. Seek help. Nobody should be alone. They're there for you if you need be. All right. Love